Hi, welcome back to the podcast series on the role of longevity annuities in different socioeconomic classes, a Canadian case study. I'm Johnny Lee, Professor of Actuarial Science at the University of Waterloo. This is the third podcast of the podcast series. In this podcast, I will show you the empirical results of the project. So in this particular podcast, I will first show you the baseline results along with the baseline assumptions. Then I will sensitivity test my results and show you how the results may change if different inputs are altered. Finally, I will show and discuss the impact of socioeconomic differentials in mortality. Okay, let me begin with a list of the general assumptions that are used in these analyses. So first things first, we assume that the individual in question is a single healthy male who turns 25 at the beginning of 2018, and remember, we set 2018 to time 1, and so on. We also assume that the longevity annuity is fairly priced using an annual rate of return of 1% and projected Canadian male mortality. For the utility function, we assume that the time preference parameter beta is 0.97 and the risk aversion parameter gamma is 5. Throughout the analysis, we will study the impacts of socioeconomic differences in income. To this end, we consider 3 income bands. We model the median income band as the average wage for Canadian males in 2017, as reported by Statistics Canada. Then the high income band is modeled as 140% of the median income, and the low income band is modeled as 50% of the median income. Okay, with the assumptions made, we can proceed to the baseline results. The baseline results are derived from the Lee-Carter model that is calibrated to the historical mortality experience of Canadian males. We consider individuals belonging to the 3 different income bands with and without access to longevity annuities. So in total, there are 6 cases that are analyzed. For each of these 6 cases, we will calculate the maximized lifetime utility and the optimal decisions that are averaged across 10,000 simulated investment and mortality scenarios. Okay, first, I would like to show you the optimal conversion rate, the maximized lifetime utility with and without access to longevity annuities for low income, medium income, and high income individuals. First, let us focus on the medium income individuals. For the medium income individuals, we see that access to longevity annuity increases as maximized lifetime utility significantly. For high-income individuals, we also see a similarly significant utility gain. But the utility gain for the low-income band is just marginal, and this suggests that low-income individuals do not materially benefit from access to longevity annuities. So how about the optimal conversion rates? On average, both the medium and high-income individuals convert 25% of their RPP and RRSP assets to longevity annuities, maxing out the limit imposed on longevity annuity purchase. In stark contrast, the low-income individual converts a mere average of 1.52% of his RPP and RRSP assets to longevity annuities, and this suggests that the demand of longevity annuities from low-income individuals is very low. Having seen the results, it is natural to ask, why is the demand from low-income individuals so low? Well, this can be explained by considering the GIS pension these individuals receive. We know that low-income individuals receive GIS pension because the total of their CPE pension and minimum registered account withdrawal in 1 year is well below the GIS pension threshold. And as mentioned in the first podcast, every $1 of longevity annuity payment reduces the GIS pension amount by approximately 59 cents until it reaches zero. The loss of the GIS pension amount outweighs the benefit from the longevity annuity, and this explains why the demand from low-income individuals is so low. Now, let us take a look at the optimal consumptions. Here, I consider the medium-income individual, and on this picture, I show the value of CT against time T. For individuals with and without access to longevity annuities, we observe that in line with the utility gain arising from longevity annuity assets, the individual has access to longevity annuities enjoys a consumption CT that is always no smaller than that of the other individual. Now, we turn to illiquid assets. On this picture, I show the pre-decision illiquid assets NT against time T for medium-income individuals with and without access to longevity annuities. We see something interesting here. Well, before retirement age, the illiquid assets of the individual with access to longevity annuity is larger than that of the other individual. And this suggests that the anticipation to purchase a longevity annuity at retirement age entices individuals to contribute more to their RRSP accounts before retirement. The pattern of NT after retirement is also interesting. We see that the individual with access to longevity annuities withdraws more from his RSP, RPP, and RRIF compared to the other individual during the first few years after retirement. This result is not surprising because the longevity annuity he purchases offers retirement income security at older ages. All right, how about the low-income individuals? Here, I showed you the optimal consumptions CT against time T for low-income individuals with and without access to longevity annuities. We see that the impact of longevity annuity assets on the optimal consumptions for low-income individuals is not noticeable. And this offers an other support for our conclusion that the benefit of longevity annuities to low-income individuals is minimal. How about illiquid assets? Here I show you the illiquid assets NT against time T for low-income individuals with and without access to longevity annuities. We see that the low-income individual withdraws large amounts of RRSP and RVP in the first few years after retirement. These large withdrawals can be explained by the intention of low-income individuals to receive GIS pensions. As I mentioned in the first podcast, the maximum annual income to receive GIS pensions is around 18,000 for a single pensioner. After the first few years of large RRSP and RPP withdrawals, the individual's annual income falls below that 18,000 threshold so that he is entitled to receive GIS pensions for the rest of his life. And that explains why we see large withdrawals of RRSP and RPP in the first few years after retirement. Okay, so I would like to add more context to the pattern of conversion rates. Here, I showed you the relationship between income and the optimal conversion rate. Here, income is expressed as a percentage of the median income. We see that the optimal conversion rate drops as income reduces. But the reduction only becomes apparent when the income is lower than 80% of the median income. Now, we are ready to move on to the second part of this podcast, sensitivity tests. The first test that I'm going to do is the test on profit loading. In generating the baseline results, we assume that the longevity annuity is fairly priced so that in expectation terms, no profit or loss is made by selling it. I'm now going to examine how the optimal conversion rate may change if a profit loading is added. I'm going to consider a simple multiplicative loading ranging from 0 to 100%. For example, a profit loading of 20% means that the longevity annuity is sold to the individual for 1.2 times the fair annuity price. So here I show you the optimal conversion rate when the profit loading increases from 0 to 100%. We see that the optimal conversion rate remains the same at 25% until the profit loading reaches 20%. Thereafter, it reduces with the profit loading because the individual becomes more reluctant to purchase the longevity annuity when its cost increases. The profit loading in a competitive market is typically less than 20%. So the conclusion that it is optimal for medium-income individuals to max out the 25% conversion limit should remain valid in practice. The next sensitivity test I'm going to perform is on the conversion limit. When generating the baseline results, the maximum conversion rate is set to 25%. For medium and high-income individuals, the optimal conversion rate hits the 25% limit in most of the simulated scenarios. I now examine how the optimal conversion rate may change if the conversion limit is increased. Here I show how the optimal conversion rate for a medium-income individual will change as the conversion limit raises from 25% to 75%. We observe that the average simulated optimal conversion rate increases monotonically with the conversion limit. This suggests that the medium-income individual would have invested in an even larger sum of money in the longevity annuity if the conversion limit becomes higher than 25%. When the conversion limit is set to 35%, the average simulated optimal conversion rate is 34.4%. This indicates that at this high conversion limit, the individual still chooses to convert as much of his illiquid assets as possible to the longevity annuity in the majority of the simulated investment and mortality scenarios. As the conversion limit further increases, the optimal conversion rate stays at around 42%, and this suggests that the individual is unlikely to convert more than 33% of his illiquid assets to the longevity annuity when no conversion limit is imposed. The third test I'm going to perform is on the perceived mortality level. When deriving the baseline results, it is assumed that the individual and the seller of the longevity annuity have the same view on mortality. However, this assumption may not hold true. For example, the individual may have more information about his own health compared to the seller of the longevity annuity. I now relax this assumption by allowing the individual to use his perceived future mortality when making decisions. In particular, the seller prices the longevity annuity using objective future mortality rates. On the other hand, the individual makes decisions using his perceived future mortality rates, which are expressed as a multiple psi of the corresponding objective rates. In this table, I show how the optimal conversion rate may change as the multiplicative factor psi varies from 0.5 to 1.5. I do this experiment for both the 25% conversion limit and 50% conversion limit. Alright, so let us first focus on the situation when the conversion limit is 25%. When considering the medium income individual and a 25% conversion limit, the average simulated optimal conversion rate is 25% for all three levels of perceived mortality. Now, we focus on the 50% conversion limit. When the conversion limit is raised to 50%, the average optimal conversion rate increases with decreasing psi. Individuals will find the longevity annuity a better value for money if they believe that they would live long. Okay, so it now comes to the final part of this podcast, the impact of socioeconomic differentials in mortality. In what follows, stochastic mortality is modeled by the ACF model, which I introduced in the second podcast. This model incorporates socioeconomic differences in mortality. It is calibrated to the mortality experience of CPP male pensioners who belong to three different CPP pension bands: low income, medium income, and high income. Using this model, I can investigate the impact of socioeconomic differences in mortality on the optimized lifetime utility and conversion rate. The estimated ACF model suggests a negative relationship between income and mortality levels. When this relationship is incorporated into the life cycle analysis for the ACF model, the relationship between income level and longevity annuity utilization would not be that straightforward. This is because an increased income would exert opposite forces on longevity annuity utilization. To explain further, let us consider a high-income individual who has a lower mortality according to the ACF model. If the lower mortality is recognized by the individual, then he will see a better money's worth of the longevity annuity and may in turn acquire more. On the other hand, if the lower mortality is recognized by the annuity provider, then the price of the longevity annuity will be higher and hence the individual may acquire less. So now we see a higher income exerts opposite forces to longevity annuity utilization. From our numerical analysis, we draw this conclusion. If both the individual and annuity provider fully recognize socioeconomic differences in mortality, then the overall impact of a higher income is in fact positive on the dollar amount of longevity annuity purchase. The second analysis we can perform with the ACF model is the analysis of asymmetric information. Asymmetric information arises from the fact that the individual may have better knowledge about his mortality compared to the annuity provider. In this analysis, two scenarios are compared. The first scenario is that the annuity provider prices the longevity annuity based on the individual's true mortality. Asymmetric information does not exist here. The second scenario is that the annuity provider is unaware of the individual's true mortality and prices the longevity annuity with the population level mortality instead. Here, asymmetric information exists. Based on our numerical analysis, we can draw this conclusion. For low-income individuals, we see that asymmetric information has little impact on the optimal decision. They are so reluctant to purchase longevity annuities anyways. For high-income individuals, asymmetric information leads to a higher conversion rate. This is because as the high-income individual's mortality is lighter than the population mortality, the longevity annuity in the second scenario is underpriced, and the high-income individual therefore converts a higher portion and amount of his illiquid assets to the longevity annuity upon retirement. Okay, it is time to conclude this podcast series. In this project, we have developed a rich and realistic life cycle model to determine the optimal consumption, pension contributions and withdrawals, and conversion to longevity annuities. The model is built on realistic assumptions concerning the retirement income system and tax rules in Canada. It also incorporates stochastic mortality and investment returns. We've found that individuals with medium and high incomes benefit greatly from the access to longevity annuities, but low-income individuals only benefit marginally. Longevity annuities provide significant tax deferral benefits for wealthier individuals who have sufficient retirement income from other sources. This is because the purchase of a longevity annuity does not induce any taxable annuity payments until a very advanced age, and simultaneously reduces the required minimum withdrawal from registered accounts as ages 71 and above. However, low-income individuals do not benefit as much, for two reasons. First, they have insufficient retirement income from other sources and are therefore better off withdrawing more than the minimum requirement from registered accounts. Second reason is that longevity annuity payments significantly reduce the amounts of GIS received by low-income individuals. In our analysis, we also found that there are different factors that may affect longevity annuity utilizations. These factors include profit loading, conversion limit, perceived mortality, and asymmetric information. All right, that is the end of this podcast series. Thank you very much for watching.